The important thing is their English might not be as good as you, but I want you to be as welcoming as you can. Okay? This is a safe environment and we help each other. So even if they might be struggling a little bit in the beginning, so be kind and helpful to them. Okay? You are the hosts right now in this class. Okay? Any questions? Don't try to win arguments over other new students, okay? All right. Okay, let's begin our discussion for chapter 32. I think Coco would like to start.
Can I start with the last sentence of the last paragraph?
Sure. 32, right?
Yeah. The last, because when you don't know what to ask, just ask the last sentence. The man who knew, like, they're going to watch the movie called, whether to watch the movie, The Man Who Knew Too Little or Not.
That's chapter 33.
Yeah, that's 32.
Then 33.
All right.
Like, who might this be? Like, is there, like, a meaning of this?
Sorry, what's the question again?
Like, is there, like, a hidden meaning of this, like the name of the movie? Like, which character might it be?
I thought she meant the person sitting next to her. Sean? Yeah.
Oh.
What's your
No.
first reaction?
My first reaction was that.
Oh, tell us why. That's interesting.
The question why? Like, maybe because Dad never got educated and all he knew was about the Bible.
I'm just curious, how many of you think this is about that? Raise your hand. Sean?
I thought about Dad first and then Sean.
Is what?
Dad might be.
Interesting.
At first,
Okay, Jenny, go first. Why would you think that this is referring to that instead of Sean?
The kind of like a similar reason to Coco, like how the man who knew too little, like we know that like Dad might have some misconceptions about some things. For example, discrimination towards women, some stereotypes, and I feel like it's all kind of the man who knew too little. So yeah, it kind of refers to Dad who like doesn't know that much, like other than like Mormon culture. So yeah.
Okay. Anyone wants to respond to Jenny's comment? You are covering your face again. All right, let me raise a question. So before this page, on the previous page, I think it mainly talks about how Tara was afraid that Sean is going to do something violent to her, right? So that was the context before she threw out this title, right? So why wasn't your reaction? Because my first reaction is she's definitely talking about Sean, about her inner process, her thoughts, and her fear about Sean. She just sit there, right? Hoping that Sean wouldn't find out what she was thinking. So my normal reaction is, oh, it's definitely talking about Sean. Does that make sense? All right, so if you understand my logic, why do you think it's talking about that? I think that's interesting.
Because if like referring to Sean, I think Sean isn't like new to little. Sean might be violent, might be not a good person, but I think a man who knew too little might fit Dad more than Sean, because Dad spent most of his time learning what's from the Bible, and like he doesn't really knows much about the outer world. But Sean is not a person who knew too little.
Anything you want to add? Okay. All right, let's move on to the next question. Any new questions? You guys all seem tired today. I'm tired too. I only slept for, I think, 3 hours last night. So, keep trying. New questions. How about we hear from William?
My question was, did the relationship between Sean and Tara changed?
Can you be more specific? Change from bad to good, or good to
From the worst to not that worse.
bad? Oh, okay. So you're asking if their relationship is improving?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
I have no answer.
All right. Anyone wants to respond? How about we hear from Ruixin?
I feel like right now it's hard to say because, like, as we know, originally he always abused her because he thought, well, she was becoming, well, more and more, I'd say, un-Mormon, putting it in like nicer words, and like now she's just suddenly back. I don't think, and like it's not like she did anything that like really annoyed him, and like she was also like careful with her words. So like she said like not really when he asked about Audrey, so maybe it improved, but also at the same time I feel like it's also because Tara didn't really do anything that really like annoyed Sean.
How many of you have finished reading the book? Go ahead. 2, 3. Okay. All right.
So my opinion is also like hard to say, but I guess perhaps a little better. The reason I say a little better is that on the last paragraph it says Sean seemed unaware of my silence. A silence, like if it's in the plot, Sean I think will perhaps demand Tara what she is thinking about, perhaps. But yeah, Sean seemed unaware. So yeah, that perhaps is Sean being better to Tara. But also, as we know that bipolar is, Sean has bipolar. So to judge whether the relationship of Sean and Tara has changed, I think we shouldn't look at Sean when he's a good person, but when he's on the other side.
Okay, interesting. So just a quick reminder. So as our group grow bigger, you will get less and less opportunities to speak, right? Currently we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, plus me 12 people in the group, right? Say if we become 15 people, then you might only have 3 minutes or 2 minutes to speak on average per seminar, right? So cherish your last opportunity to speak a little bit more this week, next week, I think.
So
We might have to do something like inner circle or outer circle when the people get, yeah, otherwise maybe that's too crowded. What?
We don't have enough to like do inner outer.
Yeah, but maybe we can have a cameraman or someone who keeps track of time.
Like for different chapters, there's like.
We will see, okay? We'll see how it goes. What?
so somebody take my.
I don't know yet.
Wait, but then if they join next week, we're like at the very end of the book, and then you like
Right.
they only know like the end. It'd be like really hard to catch. And it's not like they're gonna catch up with the entire book.
Right, but they really want to join, I think. So
They have like 33 chapters.
they will just have to read.
for like started to read that before they come in.
Read the summaries.
Maybe they just read the third part because like there's 1, 2, and 3.
But like
That's
the
fine,
first
that's
two
like
parts is like the entire past
hard to understand.
and what shaped personalities.
Sorry, I think they will do just fine. All right, so how about we hear from someone who's more quiet and yet insightful? All right, I'm thinking about Jet. Let's just raise a new question that you think it's interesting and worth discussing. Rixian seems awfully quiet today.
What gives mom the power, like, to disobey with dad?
So your body language do matter. So when you speak, just try to find a natural pose. Try to sit up and raise your volume and speak naturally. Okay? Try to raise your volume. Go ahead.
What gives mom the power, like, to disobey with dad, and is it related to Tara? Well, first of all, I think it was mainly because she was triggered by what Dad said. Dad's wifely work when they were talking about writing the thank you cards, I think, for the funeral. And I think another point that made Mom more assertive towards Dad was because of Tara and her education at Cambridge. And I think Tara going to college and her fate, right, her change in fate and everything has inspired her to be more assertive. And also how Emily and Audrey is being treated right now. I think she, being the midwife, being like the woman of the woman in the family, she wants to set an example, set a lead for the 2 other women in the house. Even though when she being assertive towards that is deteriorating the whole relationship. So, yeah.
I agree with Rushin, and also I would like to like add a point. I feel like it's also kind of like a build up. Like I mean, from the start of the story, Mother has always been treated, I wouldn't say bad, but definitely not the best, and kind of always been like ordered around by Dad. And like now when she's just asking like a very simple thing to do, as Rushin said, like triggered, like just it's like something as simple as spelling thank you cards. She's like, no, that's wifely work, and then yeah, she just couldn't take it anymore.
I kind of held a little different opinion. Like, I think it's not because that she wants to be the example of other women in the household. I think it's because actually Tara set an example. Because Tara, she disobeyed Dad's rule and what is God's will. She goes to Cambridge, and also at this time period, Tara is at home, and Audrey is also at home, and it's been mentioned in the previous chapters that Tara and Audrey all wants to like stand up against Dad, and Mother who like agrees Tara to go to Cambridge, I think is on the same point. So together, because she knew that all 3 of them is here, that gives her the courage to stand up to Dad.
That was a good point, but I don't really believe it was only Tara that added up to this situation, because before, when Tara was in college and she came back to visit, there wasn't any really that big of a difference in Mom's attitude towards Dad. But I think this time, maybe seeing that the abuse that Emily and Audrey got, she felt more guilty for not taking a stand up and towards Dad. Yeah. Yeah.
Very good discussion there. Anyone wants to add anything?
Yeah, and I also think that it's a long process. It's the small things in life that build up to like this big action or a big change. Yeah.
What grade are you in, Rishin?
9.
9 or 10?
9.
I'd say you are very mature now, your mental age, and very observant. Did I ever tell you that this book is meant for adults? My professor at Columbia advised us, teachers, to read this book. So, and my classmates are all those in 30s and 40s who have like 10 years or 20 years of teaching experience. So, very old, right? So I really appreciate that, how much detail and how much you can get from the material of the book. All right, I don't have much questions. Do you feel that there's not many worthy questions to discuss in these 2 chapters? I didn't have a lot of thoughts or responses when I read these 2 chapters. So the only thing that I think it's a little bit worth digging is the relationship between grandma and father, dad.
So that was that father's mom, right?
Right. I think in
On his side.
in part 1, Tara described how they always fight, but maybe they make up. They fight and they get back together. Right? Is that?
No, but I thought he fought with grandma over in town.
Oh, no, not this one?
I think when grandma over in town is like, it's not Mormon, so dad just refused.
I remember there's one grandma that constantly fight with dad, but they understand each other. They have some sort of harmony.
Probably his dad.
Do you have any memory of that? I'm not sure.
It says that their fight only stopped because she's dead now. I don't
Right.
know, somewhere.
I heard Dad used to fight with a grandma who had cancer.
I don't remember which grandma that was, but I remember there's fighting and there's harmony.
When did grandma die?
So if you turn to page 3, the first paragraph in section 2, my father lost his appetite for the business. He started getting out of bed later and later, and when he did, it seemed it was only to insult or accuse. Did you find it?
Yeah.
Okay. The first chapter. Down there, yeah. So, I wrote a question next to this paragraph. I wrote, is he grieving for grandma's death? Why was he acting weird? Yeah. Do you think that he's actually sad? Louder, I can't hear you. Use the microphone.
I think this section is kind of normal because dad is not totally like doesn't have any emotions because like the grandmother is his mother and you cannot like it's kind of impossible to be like not emotional when your mother passed away, isn't it?
Good point.
In the paragraph, it mentioned if it was as if he wanted to fight to punish himself for the old one's death, or perhaps the punishment was for her life, for the conflict that had been between them, which had only ended now she was dead.
Yeah, I think we all understand the first half, but what does the last sentence mean? Perhaps the punishment was for her life, for the conflict that had been between them.
I thought the emotions for Dad now was kind of complex, so he must be sad or grieving because that's his mom. But they had conflict, and this sentence I mentioned, which had only ended now she was dead. He might felt regret for starting the conflict, or he might feel regret for not winning not be the winning side in the conflict, or not try to convince her.
I think Dad is just like trying to like show that he kind of like miss his mother, and he was like really sad that his mom died, but he didn't want to like show it in a way where he starts crying. He just like probably like shows it in a different way so that like he can like not let anyone see that he actually like has the soft side of him. And the punishment was for her life was probably because that like Dad and his mom like fought for like a long time, and they never like kind of like made the conflict better. And I think that like when his mom died, he like finally realized that why didn't he like not start the conflict and like keep their relationship like much more better.
This is just directed towards the question, like, is Dad grieving or not? So, as Tony Harrison, I think this paragraph relates to the message Tony Harrison is trying to convey in Long Distance, that grief is personal and everyone has different ways of grieving. And I believe how.
Did we mention that name last semester?
No, it's just English.
Sounds familiar. All right, go ahead.
So I believe that Dad being mad and always getting triggered and just losing his appetite is his own form of grieving for his loved ones. Yeah.
That was the same angry in before. That was the same angry and easy to be triggered before. It doesn't.
This time he's not full of energy.
All right, let me ask a more specific question about these three lines. So I understand the first part. It was as if he wanted to fight to punish himself for the old woman's death. That's understandable, right? Yeah. So he might think that he somehow caused grandma's death, right? And he's picking up fights with everyone in the house to punish himself for it. And is this sentence any different from the next one? Or perhaps the punishment was for her life. What's the difference between life and death?
One is the event that, I think the first one is the event that she was dead. The other one is
She's no longer alive.
No, like the time that she was alive. She didn't have a
So what's
good
the
time.
difference?
One is like
She's dead.
the first one is like Dad feels that he caused her death. The other one is that he feels that he didn't let grandma live a good have a good time when she was alive.
Do you agree with Richard's view, interpretation?
Just a guess.
We don't have much evidence on that.
All right, let me repeat your position. So Richard thinks that the second part or the last part of the sentence means that Dad didn't give grandma the life that she deserves.
Yeah,
he could have given her a better life.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that view? That's an interesting take. What do you think?
I agree.
That's it. All right. Okay. So, I read a very interesting book talking about Chinese philosophies. It talks about Confucianism. What's the most important 5 things that Confucius think is the most important thing? Right. Can you say the Chinese characters? 慢一点. Right, and which character is related to this scenario here? 仁义礼智信. 信吗? All right, English. Which character is related to the case?
No, but 人 stands for giving good for all people.
人 is benevolence, that you care for others. Okay, and what does 礼 mean? What's the English translation for 礼? It's not politeness. Okay, what's the appropriate translation?
Yeah, but
I think the appropriate word is rituals and rites. Ceremonies, rituals, and rites. Okay, so maybe because I just read that book, so when I read this sentence, my understanding is that somehow that is like performing a ceremony or a ritual for the death of grandma. Right? She said perhaps the punishment was for her life. It means he is, how do we put it? He is celebrating the pride or the beautiful things that happened during grandma's life. In his own way, right? He wouldn't go, maybe he wouldn't host a funeral or something. But this is his way of telling others that he cared. What do you think?
No.
Okay.
I just think he's being a
Asshole.
yeah.
All right, fair enough.
I feel like Dad perhaps really cares about Grandma at this moment, at least. Like, I feel his action is a kind of frustration, like
What's frustration?
a kind of frustration, like his own kind of frustration.
You mean the fights and the anger?
Yeah, his actions after Grandma's death, because he lost his appetite and many other things. It feels like that his emotions make his life a mess, and I think he's probably really caring about Grandma, but I don't know why.
Of course, that's his mom, right? Or mother-in-law.
I don't
Mom
know.
or mother-in-law?
Mom.
It's like the one said that it's grandmama.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if this makes sense or not, but I just feel like it's he's feeling guilty for his past self not being there with for his mother. Like I feel like that's a lot of people would do.
Very good point. All right, anything else you want to talk about?
Could it be that Grandma's death triggered his mental illness?
He had bipolar before her death, right?
Triggered him to change.
This is something about Tara, but I don't know if we have time.
About
really.
who? Go ahead.
So, do you think that Tara is like, as she's becoming more transparent in college, like she volunteered to help a friend to like sing for the soprano? Do you think now her relationship or attitude towards like family Buck Peak has changed as she has become more open? Now she has more of a close circle of friends.
That's a very complex information and question. Let's focus on the first part. What makes you think that she is now more transparent and open
Well,
after she went to Cambridge?
she now, for example, Drew. He is her first boyfriend that she shared like
Right.
Idaho, her family with. She's now more open, and she also now has a close circle of friends. They talk.
And how does her willingness to sing relates to your question?
See?
Yeah, you said she did the soprano, right?
She was more open than before.
So she was willing to help a friend because
Oh,
her friend her friend organized the choir, and the singer who was for the soprano got like a cold spot or something. So
would she refuse in the past before the change?
I think yes, because it was singing in front of a whole audience and all that. And
Oh,
yeah.
interesting.
Could she have done that before?
Yes, but with Dad's permission and Dad's presence,
Yeah,
right?
and this time Dad wasn't here.
Yeah.
I think the most important part is that Dad isn't here, and that's not just about helping a friend. I think she kind of sees many people in Cambridge as part of her, as part of her family, because Dad's permission was very important to her because Dad was the ruler of the family, and his order is what Tara has to obey and cares most about. But now, I think Tara isn't really caring that, like, not caring about that, but she also sees the people in her friends in Cambridge just as important. So perhaps she do change a lot, like seeing Cambridge as another home.
I think Rishin, very good input. But I think Rishin raised a very good question here. I think we are at the point that we can start to think about the main message of the book. What is Tara trying to tell us by writing this book? What is a common theme of the book? If you summarize the book into one word, what word would that be?
Change.
All right. Any other words? Don't say educated.
Education. Educated. Family or change.
Okay.
Educated.
She really spent a lot of details to portray the change that herself have undergone, right? Starting from that, what adjective should we use to describe her initial condition? Submissive, right? Or accepting everything that the outside world gives her. Yeah. And then what's the adjective after her change? Educated. Jesse and Jenny seems bored. So why don't you raise a question that you think is interesting?
I don't have an interesting question.
Go ahead, Emma.
So I want to ask a question which is related to the question before this question. So, like, I was saying that he was kind of punishing him for, like, Grandma's death. But before Grandma's death, like, there were sentences that I never seen him so full of life. Like, his mother's dying, and why is he, like, so happy? But after his mother actually died, he's so depressed or sad.
Yeah, where is that line? Never seen him so alive.
The third page and the second paragraph.
The first paragraph.
1, 2.
Read it.
I don't think that was directed towards the grandmother, but the business and how the business is blooming.
Yeah, I know, but like still, like his mother is dying, and like no matter how, like normal people, no matter how the business is going, like will still be like kind of fine.
Yeah, good point.
He's still sad.
Yeah, maybe he's just okay. You go first. What's your take on this?
He's trying to make himself forget the fact that his mom's dying by working
That's
as hard as
possible.
he can.
Yeah.
That kind of also shows that he's sad and he doesn't want his mom to dead.
I agree with William. It says, the phone rang again. There were at least 3 employees tasked with answering it, but Dad leapt for the receiver as if he had been waiting for an important call. It's almost like he's trying to drown in the work, just focus only on the work so I can forget about everything else.
Good observation. Regine wants to say something, I think.
I agree with Sal because I think he's trying to keep himself really busy, so he doesn't have to think about how his mother is dying and all that. And yeah, I agree.
I don't know about the why today, but since this is our first seminar in the semester, I wouldn't say the vibe and the body language is good. Like VIBE.
Vibe check. Okay.
So maybe it's time to start something new and different. How about we write a group research paper?
Okay.
I know Jesse. I know Jesse is an expert on feminism. So how about we write something about that?
No, I suck at education debates. Every time I do education debates, I lose. I get.
Are you getting a little too? I don't know. Is seminar losing? Yeah, for you.
No.
Danger.
You all sit like this.
No, I think that's
Like,
I think that's a good book.
We need some like conflicts.
all right, maybe I hope when the new students join, they can bring a new
No, they just
vibe.
see all their like
just gone to
like,
pose of
how
how
much
much
of
of
a
a
bitch
fire.
like
No, one of them might keep any one of them.
I feel like they're gonna be less.
I feel we need to do something different. Okay, so I'll think of some activities next week. Yeah, to bring some new excitement into the class.
It's just that I don't know what to say.
And if you have any ideas or proposals, just write an email to me about what you want to do. Okay?
It's just I'm not sure what to say because I'm scared of saying it doesn't make sense.
Think about. Rishin, did you say you are going to send me a book yesterday?
However, that book has a bit of inappropriate content.
How inappropriate?
So it's sex.
Really, yeah, really inappropriate.
Send it to me. I'll be the judge.
But no, it is really inappropriate. But then the message it is trying to communicate at the end. It ends with us, Colleen Hoover.
oh, the one that you.
Yeah,
Maybe you can skip
Which one's
the
the
inappropriate.
it ends with us.
And
But then there's another one called People We Meet on Vacation, and that is really good also.
What?
No,
all read
no, it's so boring. It is so boring.
The Fault in Our Stars
like that
is
book.
actually
No.
good, but it also has explicit context.
Like what?
sex.
We can skip that or.
It's like just
When
no.
you place this chapter, just
It's two
We don't have
kids
to
who's
skip
like
it.
16, 17. They both have cancer. One of them has lung cancer. One of them has bone cancer. They're both gonna die soon.
So.
So they have.
It's
So they
like
died.
their story. One of them died.
Well, spoilers.
Oh my god. No. It was like he was destined to die.
Do you like love stories?
Yes.
We can try Pride and Prejudice. It's really good. Maybe you also have the same reaction when I first suggested Educated, but it's okay now, right?
We only read it because we don't have any other books.
Trust my judgment. It's a good book.
Lori.
The happiness book?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll look into it. I'll look into it.
It was published so long.
Lori, she's an amazing therapist. She writes amazing books.
Can we read it? Maybe we can talk to someone
All
again.
of her plot and storylines
Are you serious?
Yes.
We can read. Maybe you should talk to someone again.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Well, new people.
Yeah, new people.
No.
Why?
Half of our class is new.
You have to read more books.
But maybe you should have the happiness. We can.
I'll look into it
Project Hail
tonight.
Mary, science fiction. And it was the same author.
All right. Do some research. You still have